The opening scene features a beautiful woman named Laura Burney, who is enjoying her time on the beach. She seemingly has an idyllic life and the perfect marriage with her husband Martin, who is a successful Boston investment counselor. They live in a massive summer villa near a beach. One day, the two get well dressed and attend a social gathering. Despite being with different groups of friends, their chemistry seems to be going on as they keep gazing at each other. After the event, the two return back home and make out. Life is awesome. The end. The next morning, Martin notices a misplaced towel in the bathroom, so he brings Laura there and reminds her not to make such a mistake again, afraid of the consequences. Laura then rechecks everything in the kitchen, even aligning the food cans with utmost accuracy. Later on, Martin goes out to meet a neighbor who praises Laura's beauty, saying that he has seen her numerous times, looking out of the window. "Say my wife is hot again and I slap you," says Martin. Following this, they talk about the neighbor's boat, and Martin expresses his fondness for sailing. Hearing this, the neighbor invites him and Laura for an evening sail. Martin agrees, despite knowing that his wife is afraid of water and that she can't swim. Martin then returns home and slaps Laura hard. Oh man, he does slap, before kicking her as well. He is enraged that someone else is having pleasure in seeing his wife. At this point, it's revealed that beneath Martin's charming, handsome exterior, there is an obsessive and controlling person who's been physically, emotionally, and sexually abusing Laura throughout all of their nearly 4-year marriage. In the aftermath of the assault, Martin, in a recurring pattern, apologetically showers her with flowers and gifts. This time he gives her a red dress as a gift. He undresses her and makes her wear that dress. It seems clear that she is not comfortable with this treatment. Shortly thereafter, he again forces himself onto her, and her face says everything by now. The following day, during lunch, Laura expresses her wish to do a full-time job in a library, but Martin doesn't allow her, pointing out that she's already working as a part-timer at a bookstore. She then mentions how she wasn't even allowed to visit her mom's funeral 6 months ago. In response, Martin tells her not to argue because he doesn't want to ruin the mood for the night. In the next scene, the couple and the neighbor set out for the sail. Before long, a severe storm unexpectedly rolls in, causing Martin and the neighbor to struggle to control the vessel. At one point, the boat hits a large wave, which sweeps Laura overboard. This freaks Martin out, and he starts searching for her in the water while screaming her name. After an extensive Coast Guard search, they only find her safety vest, and Laura is presumed dead from drowning. Later, Martin returns home and rages out, blaming himself for the loss of his wife, as he should. The next day, a funeral procession takes place, but Martin is still in disbelief. In an unexpected turn of events, Laura is revealed to actually be alive. Flashbacks show that she jumped overboard and swam through the water, thanks to the secret swimming classes she took while pretending to go to her job. Upon surviving the storm, she rushed back home, grabbed a bag that she had already prepared, and donned a wig before boarding a bus. It turns out that she had it all planned in order to escape her husband's abusive and obsessive acts. And she lived happily ever after. The end. No? Okay. At present, we see Laura on a bus heading to Cedar Falls, Iowa. On her way, an elderly woman offers her some fruits, initiating a conversation. Laura then shares her tragic story of how she faked her own death to escape her abusive husband. She should have probably kept that a secret. She also discloses that she's going to see her mother, who turns out to still be alive. Previously, she had told Martin that her blind, stroke-impaired mother named Chloe had died, but that time, Laura had secretly moved her to an Iowa nursing home. As the bus enters Iowa, Laura finally has a big smile on her face. She feels so happy, as if she's been released from prison. Following this, Laura adopts a new name, Sarah Waters, and rents a house on that name. She then starts cleaning, organizing, and coloring her house, eventually making it her small paradise. During the evening time, she looks at the sunset and cherishes the present moment. She starts living her life the way she wants. She misplaces towels after showering and disperses the food cans on the kitchen shelf. She's a badass rebel, and she loves it. On the other hand, Martin roams the seashore when a broken piece of bulb injures his feet. He looks around and notices that several light bulbs are broken. It's actually broken by Laura in order to facilitate her escape. One day, Laura notices a guy named Ben Woodward from her neighborhood watering his plants in the garden. Later that night, she goes outside and starts stealing some apples from his garden. Right then, Ben shows up and tells her that she can be arrested for stealing. She requests him to allow her to because she's making an apple pie. Hearing this, he asks her to make a deal.
I won't call the cops if you give me a slice of that sweet pie.
But she drops all the apples and walks away, claiming that she doesn't make any deals. He follows her home and offers her the apples, apologizing for his way of approach. He then introduces himself as a drama teacher at a local college, but when he asks about her, she pretends that it's too late and has him leave. In the next scene, Martin is at his workplace when he receives a phone call from a woman at a sports club offering condolences for Laura. Perplexed, Martin questions how the caller knew his wife, as Laura never went to any sports club. The woman then discloses that Laura used to come there every morning for her swimming classes. Upon learning of this, Martin senses something amiss and drives home to check on Laura's belongings. After hours of inspection, he discovers her wedding ring, which she dumped earlier, but forgot to flush in the toilet. This makes him suspect that she might have faked her own death and might still be alive. Meanwhile, Laura goes to Ben's house to share a homemade apple pie. He invites her inside to have dinner together. As they prepare for it, they have a brief conversation, through which Ben learns that she is looking for a job. He offers to help her get one, but she refuses as she doesn't seem to have any qualification documents with her. Amidst this, he notices a wound in her head and speculates that she's had a troubled past. He tries to ask her about it, but she abruptly changes the topic. After this, Ben asks her for her name one more time, and she finally answers Sarah Waters. Starting from the following day, Martin starts a thorough investigation regarding Laura. He goes to a nursing home, posing as a detective, and learns that Laura paid all the bills and took her mother away 6 months ago. Hearing this, Martin's suspicion grows even stronger, obviously. He then hires a private investigator and offers him a huge sum of 20,000 big buggies if he manages to find her. In Iowa, Ben helps Laura in securing a job at a library. As they walk out, he asks for her real name. He doesn't believe that Sarah is her name because she won't answer when he calls her by that name. Regardless, Laura doesn't tell him the truth and says that she may just not have been listening. At this point, Ben confesses that he likes her and asks her to give him a chance. However, Laura, who has a traumatized past, doesn't want to be in any relationship, so she turns him down. A few days later, the entire town is celebrating Independence Day. Amidst the crowd, Ben spots Laura and apologizes to her for the earlier incident. However, she suggests that they forget everything. She then opens up about her mother, whom she hasn't seen in 6 months. On the same evening, Ben invites Laura to his studio, where they share a joyful time together. He lets her try different drama costumes, and they engage in a romantic dance to a song. It appears that they are enjoying each other's company and are bonding really well. The atmosphere eventually takes a romantic turn as they share a kiss. But when Ben attempts to escalate the intimacy, Laura is reminded of her traumatic past, making her feel really uneasy. As a result, she resists and pushes him away. In the meantime, Martin locates Chloe at a new nursing home, which finally confirms his suspicions. Evil douchebag closing in. The next morning, Ben is sitting outside his house wearing a sad expression and blue balls. Shortly after, Laura comes to him and starts talking about her abusive husband. She also reveals how she faked her own death in order to escape from him. In response, Ben reassures her safety and provides a consoling hug. Later on, he assists Laura in disguising herself as a man before she goes to visit her mother in the nursing home. She approaches her mother with a lullaby that she used to sing to her as a child. Chloe is delighted to meet her daughter after so long. As they converse, Laura reveals that she left Martin and that she is now living a happy life. She also tells her about Ben and his profession as a drama teacher.
That sounds like he doesn't make any money, dear.
Meanwhile, Martin is also at the nursing home, trying to gather information about Chloe's visitors. As he goes to drink some water from a fountain, there's Laura in front of him. However, he doesn't recognize the disguised version of her. Just as Laura leaves, a staff member tells Martin about a visitor. He then rushes outside to stop her, but she has already driven away. Laura returns home, and she is so happy that she jumps into Ben's arms and kisses him. Afterwards, Martin poses as a police officer to Chloe. He fabricates a threat towards Laura and says that they have to find her immediately. The old lady, who needs to stop falling for costumes, doesn't know where to find her, but she tells him about Ben, who works as a drama teacher in Cedar Falls College. With this information at hand, Martin locates Ben and starts tailing him secretly. Later that evening, Martin follows Ben to an amusement park, where he finally finally sees Laura, he is filled with jealousy and anger when he witnesses the two kissing. Upon returning home, Laura goes to freshen up when she is startled to see the aligned towel. She hurriedly walks out and begins checking the entire house. Shortly after, she opens the kitchen shelf and is relieved to see the stuff in a messed up state. That night, Laura spends some private time with Ben in the garden. The pair share a romantic kiss before bidding each other goodnight. Upon returning to her house, Laura notices her closet is open. Alarmed, she hurries to the kitchen and checks the shelf, only to discover that the contents are lined up to Martin's exacting standards. Knowing that her fears have come true, she starts crying when she is ultimately confronted by Martin. He hugs and kisses her, expressing relief at touching her after a prolonged absence. In the midst of this, Ben knocks on the door and reminds Laura of the time to meet tomorrow. When he senses something amiss, he breaks into the house and attempts to subdue Martin. However, he is easily overpowered and knocked unconscious. Martin then shows Laura her wedding ring and begins kissing her forcefully. Just then, she slams her knee into his balls, grabs his firearm, and holds him at gunpoint. As she reaches the phone to call the police, Martin anticipates that she is just threatening him, as she has done in the past. But this time, she shocks him by informing the police she has killed an intruder. Moments later, she shoots him 3 times in the chest, causing him to collapse to the ground. Following the incident, Laura breaks into tears when Martin suddenly wakes up like a zombie and aims the gun at her in a desperate attempt to kill her. Fortunately, the gun clicks empty and he succumbs to his wounds. The movie ends as Laura and Ben embrace and wait for the police to arrive.